everyone. We're gonna go. I think we're on part eight. We're doing part eight of the Sun Tzu reading the Sun Tzu Art of War Nuggets. Now, again, this reading is me testing. I'm using this reading, like reading this book, is part of testing a live stream. But this is official, so let's do it. Just a quick recap first. Um, for those who are just coming, it's the Art of War. I actually got the book on the screen, but this is the Art of War. If you have the book, read with us. And these are just nuggets, 30 minutes of reading, roughly 30 minutes, give or take, of reading Art of War. I'll give you Sun Tzu's wording, then I'll give you my commentary, and then we'll go through the commentary of the generals at the time. So Sun Tzu, this dates back 500 BC. It's like 495 or something like that BC. And so this is the time period that he's writing in. So chariots and all that stuff uh, will be there's some of the discussions of that, but the concepts are still true today, in my opinion. All right. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and begin reading the Sun Tzu. So where we left off, we was on page 78. So let me, and like I said, so I'm still trying to get this right. I think this should be it. Just give me 2 seconds. And I think here we go. No, that's chapter 3. No, that's wrong. It's going all the way back. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. It's supposed to be here. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Like that's why I said I'm still practicing, still testing. So I got to get this part set up right, so we can start more efficiently. So my goal now is working on efficiency, lighting. I like the lighting. This actually, I think I must have did something over here with the lighting. Yeah. So I got all right. So I did something with the lighting, but again, that's what this is about. So I'm gonna be reading, but like again, I'm testing. If you guys got any insights, anything you see, let me know. My goal is to try to perfect or just make it as more presentable as possible. All right. So and this time I'm not doing it at 4 in the morning, so this is a good thing. All right. So let's go ahead and start. We're gonna start with Sun Tzu. So Master Sun says, generals are assistants of the nation. When their assistance is complete, the country is strong. When their assistance is defective, the country is weak. And yeah, when their assistance is complete. Now, a little vague for me, but when their assistants, generals are assistants of the nation, because they I can see when they say an assistance because it helps a nation, right? Because you have to defend yourself. So in regards to that, strong generalship allows you, it protects the country. So the country becomes strong because if anybody tries to invade or you tend to do something for expansion or whatever means of conflict that you have to resolve, you'll be able to resolve it. If the assistance is defective or your generals are not are competent, then the country is weak. So you're just basically just as strong as your military. That's in a sense of explaining it. And this again, this goes back in life. So it's very important to get the principle of warrior, which everybody is a warrior at some point. If you come into conflict, you will defend yourself. So that's what is considered being from the warrior state. Warrior state is protection, offense and defense, but it's really protecting your your bubble or your family, everything that encompasses what you value and believe. You want to protect your values and your beliefs. So the warrior in you is what protects that, whether psychologically, physically, all different aspects of it. That's my belief. But this is what I'm saying here. This is what I believe here. That's my take on it. So it does make sense. So now we'll go to Cacao, and he says, when generals are completely thorough, their plans do not leak out. If they are defective, their formations are revealed outside. And then so Jialin says, the strength or weakness of a country depends on its generals. If the generals help the leadership and are thoroughly capable, these are words I use too, which is cool, then the country will be strong. If the generals do not help the leadership and harbor duplicity in their hearts, then the country will be weak. Therefore, it is imperative to be careful in choosing people for positions of responsibility. And then Ho Yang Ji says, complete means having both ability and intelligence. When a country has generals that are thoroughly able and intelligent, then that country is safe and strong. This means that generals have to be completely capable and completely knowledgeable in all operations. Generals in the field must already be acquainted with it. With all the sciences in warfare, and before they can command their own soldiers and assess formations. I'm gonna read that because I kind of like stumbled on that. Generals in the field must already be acquainted with all the sciences of warfare before they can command their own soldiers and assess battle formations. And this the information in here is, from what I've been reading, is pretty concise. Like, so they don't waste words and they don't use fluff. Everything they're saying is strictly direct to the point, which makes sense why he just Master's son just uses this one line, and that explains everything. So when he wrote it down, I'm just assuming in his journal he wrote it down in a book. It was very concise, man. So and that shows you what type of general he is actually, because he was writing down either to pass on or for himself to be a reminder. Like, so I do that as well. Like, I make reminders. Like, I'm even making little reminders for the streaming, right? So I'm making these little strips. So I'm gonna stick them on the monitor just so I can remember, and it'll help me become better at doing it. Because, like, when I started, I didn't have this section ready because I didn't think to have it ready before I started, right? But that comes with time. But in order to make things more efficient, you can speed up that to make things to move things more smoothly in your process of learning, because some things take time. You have to have patience. But that's Jia Lin, right? So I'm sorry, that was Ho Yang Ji. And I'm sorry, he had more. He says complete means when the generals are good and wise, then they are both loyal and capable. To be lacking means to be missing something. And then Zhang Yu says when the strategy of the generals is thoroughing, what? Thoroughgoing. I never heard of it like that. It's like a double word, but I never heard anybody use thoroughgoing, so it confuses. I don't even know what it means. When the strategy of the generals is thoroughgoing, opponents cannot see into it, so the country is strong. If there is even a slight gap, then opportunity can take aggressive advantage of this, so the country is weak. This goes in the family as well. Like, so when you have gaps, or let's say your family is not tight, information leaks out, right? A tight family, information becomes tightly knit. And then even with friendships and stuff like that, friendships are tight. It's hard for somebody to exploit your friendship, right? Like, you get somebody in that's an interloper, according to this. Like, you have people come in and create dissent, right? They throw things into the mix because they're watching the friendship. If they see any gaps, they exploit the gaps. So relationships, gaps in friendship. You ever get into like the conversation, get into an argument with the girlfriend when you was in high school, and people see that, and then they go in and say, oh, they'll start throwing the I call it poisoning, or putting a poison pill where they poison the relationship, where they use anything that they can use to their advantage to try to take the lady, or if girls do it with men, whatever. But that's what happens from a relationship perspective when you have those gaps. So that being the relationship is weak and the relationship is strong. So everything is an up and down aspect, because things happen in life. But whenever you have the downsides of life, do understand that you're opening up opportunities for people to exploit it. And, so that's pretty cool. All right. So now we're going on. So we're on page 79. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, cool. We're good. So on page 79. So there are 3 ways in which a civil leadership causes the military trouble. When a civil leadership, unaware of the facts, tells its armies to advance when it should not, or tells its armies to retreat when it should not. This is called tying up the armies. When the civil leadership is ignorant of military affairs, but shares equally in the government of the armies, the soldiers get confused. When the civil leadership is ignorant of the of the military maneuvers, but shares equally in the command of the armies, the soldiers hesitate. Once the armies are confused and hesitant, trouble comes from competitors. This is called taking away victory by deranging the military. Man, so that's a big one. I'm gonna reread it because that was a lot to digest. And so he says, so there are three ways in which a civil leadership causes the military trouble. When a civil leadership, unaware of the facts, tells its armies to advance when it should not, or tells its armies to retreat when it should not. This is called tying up the armies. When the civil leadership is ignorant of military affairs, but shares equally in the government of the armies, the soldiers get confused. I guess that's number two. Number three is when the civil leadership is ignorant of military maneuvers, but shares equally in command of the armies, the soldiers hesitate. Once the armies are confused and hesitant, trouble comes from competitors. This is called taking away victory by deranging the military. Man, so that, like I said, that's a heavy one. So my comments on that is yeah, I guess it's a lot, man, because you're having people. You know what's funny? Like my brother brings back to work, like back to like a corporate environment, or even it's family environment. It doesn't matter. It works through everything. It's almost having the when you have like people that they go, oh, the C level people are not connected to the people that are doing the work, right? So a manager or someone that is managing or governing whatever, they're making decisions based. They don't even have the proper information, so so they're not even aware of the fact of how it even works. They just see that things are being produced, so they go, hey, we want more, produce more, or they make a statement, well, go ahead and sell us, and then everybody knows that's a bad move. But because you're being instructed to do it, most of the time they will do it, and it'll create a calamitous situation, right? So the manager tells you to do something where you know that he or she doesn't even know what they're talking about, but they want you to do it anyway. And some managers don't even want to hear what you have to say. They're just telling you to do what they say when you get into the egotistical aspects of it. But that's an example, because what that does is it puts them in a bad situation. So they're telling you to do something that you know you shouldn't do. So they're just basically putting you in a bad situation. So that causes trouble, right? And then the other one is if they're ignorant of, when they say military affairs, but they share equal in the government of uh, the armies, which is basically, I guess, you different levels of management, right? So now, so they do some of the work, they share equally the work, but they don't understand, ignorant of how it operates. Then people get confused because they're there telling you to do something, so they kind of understand how it works, but they're still telling you things that is confusing. And then the ignorant of maneuvers will have armies and soldiers hesitate, will make them hesitate. So I guess now people are telling you to do stuff. That's like having two managers telling you to do something, and then you confuse, right? And then you'll hesitate, like, well, which should I do? So, and obviously in war it's a little different than work, but that hesitation is a big problem. So they're saying if you add all of that up, you'll be confused and hesitant. So in war, it's a bad problem, but you have competition in business, right? So that stuff permeates throughout the organization, right? So other organizations are able to capitalize on that. Like there's an example of one organization that I'm aware of. I don't know which one it is, just for an anonymity. I've heard this through the grapevine that there was a company who had a very arduous quoting problem. So when they go into a customer, they would actually, it would take them a long time to quote something that should take when you want to quote something, you got a customer that's interested and they're looking to purchase something, but it takes you a very long time to quote. You're giving massive amounts of opportunity to the competition. So one of these companies, they would take weeks to quote something where other companies do it a day or two. That's a big problem. So that's an example, and that's an example of a disconnect. Everything in here is an example of what was going on in that organization. And so people were hesitant. Other people were going, hey, we're taking too long to quote. Other people said, well, this is what it is. And then you have everybody with their hands in the pot causing calamity. And that actually was a major problem. So they lost business to other more nimble and more capable organizations. So this is an example of that, how it affects your business. But like, again, you can't see it, a lot of that stuff, because you're thinking that you can't really, it's hard to see inside what's happening, right? When they're making a problem, especially if you're not listening. So that's an example. That's my example of that. So companies, um, they're not connected, or people are doing things that they, are in affairs, don't understand what is happening, don't understand how the businesses operate. With that is a lot of stuff that I have on that, just from to mention, but just to keep things short, brevity of it is, we'll just leave it at that. But there's a lot of different aspects that you see in business that create that type of problem. So outside of the military, so it applies directly to business as well. And I'm assuming family as well, because I know you got like maybe like grandparents or stuff like that making decisions without understanding what it is, and then the children, the cousin, the family, you got that same type of I could see the same thing happening on that aspect in certain situations. So now with that, that's my commentary. So Yang Ji is saying, to get rid of these problems, it is necessary to delegate unbridled authority. So it is imperative that the officers who are to be generals be both loyal and talented. So do Mu, he says, if the military were to be governed in the same way as ordinary civilian society, then the soldiers would be confused, because there are already customs of military procedures and commands in effect. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So if you're governed, then the soldiers, the military, the way you govern society is two different things. And then, but if you're gonna govern it that way, then it creates confusion. But that's basically all right. So he kind of did exactly similar to what I was saying with the business. So military, this is Mai Yo Chin. Military and civil affairs are different, dealing with different matters. If you try to use methods of civilian government to govern a military operation, the operation will become confused. And that's the funniest thing. You know what's funny? Because that goes right back into business. The way, just in the conversation, right? Managers, the higher the managers go, the more bird's eye view it is, right? The further they are from the actual work, right? So there's the way you deal with the people who are doing the work is much different than the vocabulary is different. It's a whole different world, right? But if they're not connected, that creates a problem. But it is a different world. Like like let's say the people who are running the business, let's say the management level, they're doing things like, where should we place our office? Should the office be here? What's doing logistics? Let's just use it in regards to like a delivery company, right? What would be the most advantageous location for us to have our hub, or a hub in this area to best support that area from a logistics perspective? So that would be a conversation that would be maybe a C-level conversation, right? But the people who are doing the delivery, now because you're breaking it down into smaller parts, they're not going to be in the decision-making process of where you put a physical hub, a transportation hub, or to make deliveries more efficient. That's not even going to be the same type of conversation. They're going to be focusing on what's the best way to pack the truck to get more products on the truck, and what's the best way to make the customer happy when you're delivering it. So now they're delivering, so then you want to make sure that they are focused on driving safely, delivering packages efficiently, on time, and customer service as well. So how they deliver packages. So you'll work on that. Like, how do you address customers and then complaints? But that would be that conversation. So that's a total different conversation than people talking about we're going to build a plant. What are the budgets? How much does it cost? Is it cost effective to even build a facility here? How much is it going to cost to build a facility? Where are we going to get the money from? That's a different conversation than the person driving the truck, right? And then the managers who's managing the truck's not even going to have that conversation. He's going to be more focusing on the operations. How do I get hiring? How do we retain people? How do we treat everybody fairly? Those are conversations that you would have at the supervisor level, right? So those are different conversations, and they're actually total different environments altogether. So the C-level people, they're not even understanding the workload, if the work is too much. So a C-level person that's trying to get involved with that, he's going to be like, just get it done. Just do this. All you have to do is this. It's like, no, it's not all you have to do. This. The truck can only handle it. The driver, like the truck can only hold this amount of packages. The size of the truck is this. You're asking me to put double the amount of packages in the truck that can't hold it. So it's physically impossible. So you don't make any sense. And then now you're creating confusion. But that was the that's my take. I'm just added a double take to it. But that's crazy. Now, but that's my man Dumu. Hopefully I want Dumu because I kind of got sidetracked. So I try to eliminate the sidetracks though. But also I'm gonna just reread Dumu for the fact that I don't remember. So we'll reread Dumu. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. So I think we're still on Mao Chen. All right. So if anybody in the chat, let me know. So a nation can be governed by. Okay, yeah. So Zhang Yu says a nation can be governed by humanity and justice, but not an army. An army can be guided by maneuvering, but not a nation. I'm gonna reread it because I was trying to find out where I was at because I did lose where I was at when I got sidetracked. So we're gonna reread Zhang Yu. A nation can be governed by humanity and justice, but not an army. An army can be guided by maneuvering, but not a nation. When there are among civilian officials attached to military commands, those who do not know about military commands, man, I'm messing up. About military strategy, if they are allowed to share in the responsibilities of the military leadership, then the chain of command will not be unified and the soldiers will become hesitant. I botched that up. So just in the gist of it, I am going to read it again. So I just want to make sure I read it so we can clearly have that, have it clear and concise. So Zhang Yu, I'm rereading. A nation can be governed by humanity and justice, but not an army. An army can be guided by maneuvering, but not a nation. When there are among civilian officials attached to military commands, those who do not know about military strategy, if they are allowed to share in the responsibilities of the military leadership, then the chain of command will not be unified and the soldiers will become hesitant. All right, thanks. So now Dumu is saying also, if a general lacks the planning ability to assess the officers and place them in positions where they can use the best of their abilities, instead assigning them automatically and thus not making full use of their talents, then the army will become hesitant. So Wang Xinjiang said, those who are good at delegating responsibility employ the intelligent, the brave, the greedy, and the foolish. The intelligent are glad to establish their merit. The brave like to act out their ambitions. The greedy welcome an opportunity to pursue profit, and the foolish do not care if they die. Now that's pretty deep, man. If your own army is hesitant and confused, you bring trouble on yourself, as if you were to bring enemies in to overcome you. And then Meng Shi says, when the army troops are in doubt about their responsibilities and confused about what to do, then competitors will take advantage of this disorganized condition and cause trouble. All right, so that goes back to that company thing I was saying as well. All right, so no, that's pretty good commentary. So now we're still on page 80. And so the Master Sun says, So there are 5 ways of knowing who will win. Those who know when to fight and when not to fight are victorious. Those who discern when to use many or few troops are victorious. Those whose upper and lower ranks have the same desires are victorious. Those who face the unprepared with preparation are victorious. Those whose generals are able and are not constrained by their governments are victorious. These 5 are the ways to know who will win. All right, so this goes back to, because a lot of times they reference on, you can tell you're going to win. For the most part, you have a very strong idea that you're going to win something based on your preparedness, how well you do your assessment of the enemy. That literally tells you uh, how good you most likely do. That's why you could have business project sales and project things, because they look at their pipelines, they look at what they have, what marketing strategies they have, and they pretty much can know. So that's why when people, there's sometimes they say, if you spend this amount of money, it should generate X, Y, by Z amount, and they're pretty certain of it. Not certain to that extent. There's no certainty, but they're pretty firm to saying, hey, that we can increase sales by X, Y, by Z. Therefore, they make projections based on their assessments and understanding of the market. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so those who, if you know how to use your resources, which is troops, you'll be victorious. If you know how to, if you're prepared against the unprepared, right? That's an obvious sign. Upper and lower ranks have the same desire. That means everybody's in accord. Everybody's moving on the same to the same beat. Then it's hard to defeat them. So this is that's my take on it. But yeah, so Ho Yang Ji says, assess yourselves and your opponents. So do you, that's my man, do you, every time. I think I'm gonna do that every time. Do you, which is DUYOU. He goes, sometimes a large group cannot effectively attack a small group. And then again, sometimes weakness can be used to control the strong. Those who can adapt to the situation are victorious. This is why tradition in the spring and autumn annals says military conquest is a matter of coordination, not of the masses. Now, and then what this is correct, because again, Sun Tzu led an army of 30,000 and defeated a 300,000 troop army. So this gives you an example of when they're saying what they're saying here, they did it. Like, so it's not like this is something that they're making up. And then, but yeah, so it's not a military conquest, it's not a matter of coordination. I mean, it's a matter of coordination, not of the masses. Man, that's pretty heavy. So Zhang Yu, among the methods, he says, among the methods of deploying troops, there are ways by which a few can overcome the many. And there are ways in which many can overcome a few. Now, we're always under the guise that if you have many, it's much easier to overcome a few, but not in all matters. And I think that the 300, when you have the 300 soldiers versus Xerxes, I think, in that movie 300, is a perfect example. It is a matter of assessing their use and not misapplying them. Also, when the generals are all of one mind, the armies coordinate their efforts, and everyone wants to fight. Then no one can stand up to such a force. And that's what I mean. You can't. If everybody's in a line and we're all synced and moving together, we're considered one of the strong opponents. Like, so if somebody was doing an assessment of my team and they saw how synchronized we are, that we're all on the same accord, we all respect each other. We said the C-level generals or C-level people are in sync with the people who are on the ground level, right? And understanding that we have different roles and respect each role and give them their full authority for the roles that they manage. And by that means a C-level person doesn't just give orders directly to the people on the ground, because He's not qualified to give the orders to the people of the ground, even though he or she may feel that way. So, but if that's all in sync, then that's a very formidable opponent. If a business is operating like that, that's a hard business to go against. Like you look at Apple, all the big some of the big brands. Apple is a good example, right? And then families are like that. They're tight knit. Everybody's in the same accord. Everybody's moving in the same thing. Hard family to create division or stuff like that. Be invincible at all times, so as to be prepared for opponents. Now, remember, invincibility, when I was talking earlier, is being prepared, always being ready, training, intelligence, competent people, competent everything. So that becomes invincible. That's what they mean by invincible, like not for those who are coming in, but not like invincible in that sense. As Wu Qi said, when you go out the door, be as if you were seeing an enemy. And Shi Li said, be prepared and you will not be defeated. Now, this one quote here, I'm actually going to take that quote up because I like that. I'm going to just make a note of that. Because that quote right there, I actually kind of used that quote in a sense, like a modified thing. He said, when you go out of the door, and a lot of times we don't think like this, but when you go out the door, be as if you were seeing an enemy. Right? Hold on a second. Man, because what happens is, as soon as you step out obviously, as soon as you step out that door, you're actually walking into a war zone because there's competition, there's people you don't know. So is see it as if the enemy, which means just be prepared for it. As soon as you walk out your door, be as prepared as you could possibly be to encounter any type of situation. Now, the problem is there's some people who have that in their household too. So when they walk in the door, they got to do the same thing because they're walking in with the enemy, that even though they're with them. So it goes both ways in the sense, but that is be on your guard at all times, basically. So you walk out your door, and I'm just talking about me, you, and you, whoever is watching this, it's not in a sinister sense, but it's just not to take it that serious, but it is something that when you walk out the door, you're not guaranteed to come back, right? Like there's no somebody get into a car accident, anything can happen to you. Just be on your guard and be as prepared as possible. Like, so, to go in the extreme sense, be in a car that if you're driving in a car that's a tank, it'll probably help you survive accidents because you don't plan on getting into an accident. Nobody walks out the door and says, today I'm gonna get into it. But imagine if you had a tank, right? You do get into one, you're in a tank, you're gonna be pretty much okay because you prepared for an accident. That's why I said I'm taking it to the extreme. But oh shoot, I ain't even on rolls. I'm 33 minutes. Actually, we're gonna close. I'm gonna finish this out and then we'll close on that. But that's the gist, man. Be prepared, man, when you walk out the door, regardless. Not in a sense of paranoia, in just a sense of being prepared at all times. If you ready, you don't got to get ready, right? So it's that type of thing. When generals have intelligence and courage, they should be entrusted with the responsibility to accomplish their work and not controlled by civilians. And Jialin says the movements of the armies must adapt to the situation on the spot. Nothing causes more trouble than trying to run them from behind the lines. The movement of, I'm gonna reread that though. Let me see if there's any more to it. Yeah, let me reread that real quick. The movement of the armies must adapt to the situation on the spot. Nothing causes more trouble than trying to run them from behind the lines. And then, so this is going to end it out. So, in fact, what we're going to do, right? Because it's 34. I'm just going to read through it because this is the end of the chapter. Like, so one more page and then we're done with the chapter. So I'll just continue. So Wang Zi, if the civilian leadership tries to control the able generals, it will be unable to eliminate hesitation and avoidance. An enlightened leadership is one that knows its people and can delegate authority effectively. In the field, it is necessary to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. Without hesitation, How can this be controlled from far away? Ho Yangji says, as a rule in the military operation, you need to change tactics 100 times at every pace. Wow, as a rule in military operation, you need to change tactics 100 times at every pace. Proceeding when you see you can, falling back when you know there is an impasse. To talk about government orders for all this is like going to announce to your superiors that you want to put out a fire. By the time you get back with an order, there is nothing left but ashes. Man, this is some heavy stuff. I wish we could just sit on this stuff, but and just go over it because this is good. Like that's another powerful line. Yeah, that's pretty heavy right there. I like that. Talk about government orders for all this is like going to announce to your superiors that you want to put out a fire. By the time you get back with an order, there is nothing left but ashes. Dude, that's heavy, man. So Dumu quoted Wei Liji and saying, the general is not controlled by heaven above. The general is not controlled by heaven above, is not controlled by earth below, is not controlled by humanity in between. This is why the military is an instrument of ill omen. The general is an officer of death. All right, cool. So then like I said, we're going to add this one there. I'm gonna do this last quote. I'll get through it. If it needs more time, then we'll just redo it next time. So let's go to that next one. Oh, actually, here we go. So it is said that if you know others and know yourself, you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. If you do not know others but know yourself, you will win one and lose one. If you do not know others and do not know yourselves, you will be imperiled in every single battle. Man, that's heavy right there. Yeah, so you know what? Yeah, let's finish this out because I was about to say because this is heavy. I wanted to spend time on it, but it's pretty straightforward. So my take on it is basically I always talk about know thyself. Like so, if you go to godier.com, let me see if I can put that up there. If you go to godier.com, I got the I write blogs on like on the godier.com. Just go check it out. Check it out. And I think this is it. Yeah, check it out. Go to godier.com. Check it out. Check out some of my blogs. Check out some of my music. Some of my blogs, some of the stuff I'm working on. Yeah, but I'm big on know thyself because that's very, very is very serious because we're under attack all the time, like constantly under attack. And I'm talking about like psychological attack, all different times, all different types of attack. So all right, let me get back to that. In fact, I'm just gonna close it out on here. So what we'll do is we're gonna go back to that. Just digest that sentence. I mean, just Master Son's words. We'll close it out to keep the nugget short because we're already at 38 minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll take it back up from here. All right, everybody. Listen, man, I definitely appreciate everybody for being here. It's a pleasure. Thanks for helping me get things out. Take time, check out the godier.com. Go to the blogs. And then when you see the blogs, leave comments. Let me know what you guys think. All right. Take care, everybody. Appreciate you. And see you next time.